Well, good morning. A couple years ago, before the whole COVID thing, or right when at the beginning of it, we were coming back. We came back from Cana in Galilee, and it's probably a small town now. It's called, I think, Kefkena, and it's about 4 miles, 7 kilometers northeast of Nazareth. So not too far from Nazareth, but a ways, right? You know, a little bit of a walk. And when we got there, it was interesting. So we're on a tour, right? A pilgrimage. So we're on a bus. We do a little bus tour. So it's a good thing. But bus tours can be good, or they can be bus tours. So you have a guide. If you got a good guide, it's 2 thumbs up. You know, if you don't have a good guide, it's still great, but there's some things lacking. So our guide was okay. We kind of rubbed a little bit, I think. Personalities. You probably can't imagine that. But so on the bus going there, he kept talking about this pomegranate juice. The best pomegranate juice ever. They don't put water in it. Everybody else puts water in it. And he just went on and on and on this bus, right? So the gimmick, not a gimmick, but what they do is they'll stop at certain places, and they call their buddies, and they'll sell you certain things, right? So this was going to be the pomegranate stop. There's no doubt about that. We had a bookmark stop earlier. But, I kind of had an attitude about that up front, but it's really not a problem because there's only so many Christians there. And that's the only way that they make a living. So we understood that, so we'd always buy whatever it was, for me to keep the bus moving. For them, it was their living, right? But he kept going on and on about this pomegranate juice. So then we walking up the hill, we stop the bus, park, go up the hill, going to Cana, and sure enough, we stop, and lo and behold, the pomegranate stand. And, a family was there, just a husband and wife, and a couple of kids came out, and they were on the front porch of their house, and they got this pomegranate press. And he kept saying, even then, 100 times at least, there's no water in his pomegranate juice. And I'm waiting for the joke, right? Or for the spiritual enlightenment of water and pomegranate juice, because we're at Cana, the water and the wine. It never came. So maybe I missed it. Maybe I was like the steward, right? And I missed that whole deal. But then, the whole Cana thing, I really was not engaged in that. It just seemed to be kind of hokey, kind of put on, kind of staged, We got there, and first off, we went to the wrong place, and we crashed a wedding that was already going on. So I'm sure that pleased them. But they didn't want us to go, which is so awesome, But that's how it was in Cana. People would go, and if they were traveling through town, they would stop. There's a wedding, and you fed them, and you gave them wine. That was how it worked. So that was kind of cool, I thought, right? So it's starting to catch me. Of course, the bus guy comes in, and that pomegranate juice, I'll tell you, it was good, right? I did get some, and it was good. But maybe not the best. I don't have a lot to gauge it on. But, the bus driver, hey, come, come, you're in the wrong place. And they're like, no, don't leave. And we ended up doing the exchange of vows. I didn't like the lighting, the space was echoey, all that. You're in these plastic chairs. But when we started that liturgy, oh my, right? My whole attitude changed because I was exchanging my vows with my wife. We'd done that. We were married outside the church, truth be known. And then we were married inside the church, which is an incredible experience for me. Cried like a baby. Was at Cana, doing the same thing, right, in the end. And it was powerful. And then you got to think of who was standing there at some point. We may not have been standing where Jesus and Mary was, but we were pretty close. There's no doubt about that. And it was an awesome thing. So this liturgy has taken me to a place. Singing my vows has taken me to a place. And that's the reality of those things. So I highly recommend you go on pilgrimages because that's what it'll do for you. It was very, very, very powerful in the end. I'll tell you, the liturgy. Very powerful. So we could talk about a lot of things here in this reading. We could talk about the 3 days, how they're part of a symbolic sequence. First day, the beginning, the second day, the middle, the third day is the end. So the third day symbolizes fulfillment of the first and second days, right? And the start of something new. That's really kind of what that is. Something is ending and something is beginning. The third day also connotates that God oversees the whole transition. Or we could talk about the stone jars because they specifically say 6 and specifically say stone. Stone does not absorb impurities like pottery or break down when water's in them. They were used for ritual preparation, though, not for drinking. So remember that. There's dirty water in there to start with. The assumption is that the divine and the human They are related and kept in communion by our human effort to remain pure. Again, the purification ritual. At Cana, the time has come for purifying water, changed from the old to the new, to be transformed into an exhilarating wine. Or we could talk about the 6 jars. Why 6? Man, right, imperfection. But it should make us wonder, well, that's odd. Why not 7, right? It's a purity thing. Why not the divine? Scholars point out that the 7th jar is Jesus on the cross when he pours out his blood with water. John likes to bookend his things in his gospel. So we start at Cana, his public ministry. He uses water in stone jars. At the end, the crucifixion, he uses water from the side of Jesus. So you have water, wine, water, blood. Might be some kind of connection there, right? We could talk about that. We could talk about how some think the term woman used here as a rebuke. In that culture and at that time, woman was esteemed, right? It was placed a formal respect. Some would say Jesus would not have used it here. Well, I doubt that because it was in the Bible. I just read it in the gospel. So it was there, so he would. But he wouldn't rebuke his mom, I'm here to tell you. Jesus will not rebuke his mother. Not a chance. In any event, it should lead us back to Genesis and Mary's role as a new Eve, and forward to Revelation as the Queen of Heaven, and so much more. We should be reminded that Mary was at the beginning and the end of Jesus' public ministry. So what's going on again is John bookending these things. But it should show us, too, that it suggests the involvement of Mary's role in redemption, not a small thing, and indicating she was present with him in everything he did. Or, what is it to me? So interesting, we had a parishioner, Mike McSweeney. I don't know if anybody remembers Mike McSweeney, a couple nods, right? Yeah, a character. And he was from New York. And he was a New Yorker like you've never seen before. So we were talking about this one time in Returning Catholics. And I said, people think woman, what is it to me, right? It's like some rebuke. I said, it just can't be. And he says, hey, forget about it. And I'm like, what? You forget about it. He's forget about it. Forget about it. You want something from me? Forget about it. I'll give it to you. I forget it. That's Jesus. You forget about it. I can take care of it. And that was his deal. And I said, man, you New Jersey people are intense. And he goes, you forget about it. So I learned then that forget about it is a good thing. 2 thumbs up, right? We'll take care of it, work with you. But you forget about it is a rebuke. So he showed me the difference. So anybody from New York, you should understand that our Lord will do what his mother says. My hour has not yet come, pointing to the Lord's death and resurrection. That's the condition of making good wine at the wedding of Cana, is drinking the sour wine at Golgotha. What is it to me? That's what that means. I'll make good wine. But to make that good wine, I'm going to have some sour wine. And that's us too. Or the fact that the Blessed Mother doesn't engage Jesus. He just turns, she ignores him, tells the steward to do whatever he tells them. Does she know what that means? That she's asking him to start his journey on the cross? I believe so. Jesus tells her it's not his hour, but he moves in her direction anyway and does it. That's her intercessory power. We could talk about the 100 to 150 gallons of wine, the finest ever. Imagine that, right? Jesus making you wine. I mean, it's going to be good. Absolutely no doubt about that. No doubt about that. But if you think about it, I couldn't quite put that together. So 150 gallons, let's say, that's 1,600 bottles of root beer, right? 1,600 bottles. That's what he made for them, pretty close to that. So if you've ever seen the show Chosen, they have that series. If you haven't, it's worth looking at. They have an app on the phone, and you can watch it on a Fire Stick, but that's stuff on Netflix or something like that. But it's out there, the second season. I think you have to pay $20 for it now. But nonetheless, you can watch the first season for free. And they do a very, very good treatment of this wedding at Cana. I think the whole thing is done well, talking about Jesus. But when I got done with that, I just wanted to say, party on, Wayne, party on, Garth, because they really showed that whole wine thing pretty in a high level. Or the head steward. He only sees that there is fine wine and plenty of it. He sees the physical. He can't get past the physical to get to the spiritual. and he just doesn't see the sign. The fine wine at the end confuses him, and his taste buds won't let him get past the sensible. He doesn't see where it came from or why. But the servants get it. Servants get it. John mentions the sign, meaning a miracle, seemingly in passing, but the steward he points out in some detail. So there has to be some importance there. The sign is also the first sign, meaning there are more to come, and this particular sign takes precedence over all. But anyway, there's a lot of stuff there, but what really gets me is the statement, they have no wine. And I don't mean they have no wine as they ran out and the Blessed Mother asked our Lord to make it for them to save embarrassment of the bride and groom. I mean, they have no wine. There's more to it than that. Has to be. So Father Larry Richards, I can't remember if it was Father Larry Richards or Fulton Sheen, said that when they say that, it means no wine means they have no love. Others would say that it means not knowing our Lord or having any grace. And others would say it means empty, just out of whatever we need, just ran out of gas, right? Which makes sense. There would be more to this statement. As it's the head steward, he saw the physical, but he didn't grasp the spiritual. So there has to be more there. So let's put it this way. The honeymoon's over. Wedding hasn't even started and the honeymoon's over, right? We know that. The excitement, the joy, the festivity, suddenly they're gone. The wine ran out. The job was exciting, but now it's challenging, or it's not challenging, and something with sometimes long stretches of boredom. The school is an awesome school, but now the homework is a grind and becoming mundane. The friendship was good, but a few disagreements along the way, and it's not what it was 10 years ago. The marriage was good, but along the line, the wine ran out. Faith was sustaining when things were going well, but when a spouse dies or a child gets sick, things turn sour, and the wine ran out. Hope was easy to talk to somebody else about who was in despair, but when I was told I had a terrible sickness, the wine ran out. Love is great as long as it endures and grows, but at the point it stopped growing and stopped enduring, the wine ran out. So these things should resonate with us. We look at our lives and of others we have known, and we see the losses, necessary and unnecessary. The mirror tells us we have no more wine. Sometimes I look in the mirror and say, had too much wine already, right? But that's a whole different story. And then Jesus comes to offer us more, new wine with the power to transform. Not a simple word, transform. Although we've had pain and suffering, disaster, hurt, betrayal, growth and fulfillment can come with what Jesus has to offer. We can continue to drink the bland water or the wine that we have before us. And how do we do that? Jesus says to go, get, and then fill. How can people say that it's faith alone when the first thing Jesus does is calls us to action? He's calling us to participation. If we are the vessels, and I think we are, this is what he's saying, then we have to bring ourselves to Jesus and let him transform us. But unfortunately, we have to bring him something. Just imagine if we bring our Lord just a little bit of love in our vessel, or compassion, or mercy, or forgiveness. He will transform that into something that you cannot even imagine. We just can't imagine it. The more we put in our vessel, the more he gives us, overflowing and the finest. How do we do that? We can do that at adoration each and every day, right out here. We can do that in prayer each and every day. Obviously, we can do that here at Mass. We got to carve the time out. You have done that today, there's no doubt. But you have to carve the time out. You have to do it. They did that at Cana. It wasn't a long stretch from Nazareth, but people were coming from all over. Hot, dusty, dirty, no food, no money, none of that. But they still made it. They still celebrated. They gave everything they had. We have to do the same thing. They were transformed. We need to be transformed. We will be rewarded by the finest wine. So don't waste this time here. You come forward for communion, if you can receive, just ask your Lord, our Lord, oh my, transform me with whatever you have. Make me overflow with your love, your mercy, your justice, all of those things. And don't leave it here either. Take it with you and spread it to everybody you come into contact with. If you can't receive communion right now, that's okay. Come forward and do the same thing and receive a blessing. Because I'm telling you, as the wine was changed at Cana, it will be changed here. That wine that changed at Cana is the same wine that will be changed on this altar. He started his ministry then to go to there for us to receive the wine, us to change, and us to go forth. What is it to me? Everything.